Let us take a closer look at the basic settings of the configurator. Here you can select the language of your choice. Confirm the change by selecting Yes. Next, select your country. For example, AT for Austria, DE for Germany, IT for Italy, and so forth. This will take you to the project navigation menu, taking into account local variations in the applicable standards. Once you get to this screen, you can plan the project, save it, and share it via email. In order to explain all the available functions, I will generate any application with two different boards. Here you can see both configurations for a specific project within the project folder. By using the import-export function, you can download the entire project and save it locally. When planning a project, this allows you to save the latest version of a configuration and then to upload it again to continue working on it as needed. Alternatively, you can also save the latest configuration online by generating a configuration ID in the Summary tab. It is important to note that saving the project online and generating a configuration ID will freeze and save the current configuration status. This means that a new ID must be generated for each following modification of the project to ensure that there is only one unique documentation associated with each ID. This means it is not intended to override an existing ID because of the advantage that each version can be tracked individually and the modifications and extensions can be retrieved at any time. I will now generate an ID. After the ID has been created, the tab Send email with configuration data will appear. Once you switch to this tab, all you have to do is enter your email address, select the project name, and then click on Send, which will send the entire documentation, including the link to the ID, to the indicated email address. This ID will then also be added to the documentation. To call it up again, enter the ID in the configuration ID field and click on Open. Both options, import-export and online storage via the ID, enables a fast and efficient project modification and quotation process. In some cases, changes may be required after a distribution board has already been ordered, wired and installed. For example, if an additional circuit is unexpectedly needed due to installation changes, it will affect the board and its documentation. While this will usually be dealt with on site, you can update the documentation accordingly by calling up the ID in the configurator. This will allow you to make the necessary changes, for example by adding a circuit breaker. And you can then save and print out the documentation under a new configuration ID. This also makes it very easy to document changes to the application. A final practical tip: both the import-export function and the creation of an ID allow you to create a template which you can then modify in line with the needs of your specific project. To do so, simply call up the template, make the necessary changes, and then save it as a new configuration.